Okay. Hey, what's going on? So yeah, I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna try to start at the very basics and move up to getting a little more complex. Which isn't this isn't really super complex once you kind of get the hang of how it works. But just looking at like being able to do this at a baseline can be a little frustrating. So I'm gonna go over start with the basic stuff that you may just not know. You may not have been exposed to it yet. I am a new player, so I understand that. Um, I'm also mainly making this for my friends, so if I ever use any informal name or any names and reference people, I'll try to keep it general. But if I ever do that, then yeah, it's because I was making it for them. This is gonna be very unprofessional, one take bullcrap. So, um, yeah. So first things first, like how do you get like your normal UI that you may have to have something like this over here, where I can just have that and then like, oh, just swap to my gladiator and it just stays there too. And then if I wait a few seconds, it just disappears. How do you make something like that happen in the first place, right? And so to start for this, I'm gonna go over gear sets because if you want to have stuff where you can swap classes or jobs, whatever you want to call them, you're gonna need to understand how gear sets work. Um, maybe if you're just doing stuff like mounts, or like having like a mount list or stuff like that. Not so much. But if you're gonna want to swap classes, we're gonna have to talk about gear sets. So if you understand gear sets, I'm gonna try to make a timestamp for where to jump to next. But if you already understand them, go ahead and skip to the next part and feel free to ignore this part. But yeah, I'm gonna go over some gear sets real quick. So with gear sets, right? Gear sets essentially act as a way to quickly swap between any set of gear that you've already made, right? I'll delete this because I actually had to re-record this because I messed up. But so gear set gear sets act as a way to quickly swap over to any preset of gear that you've already made, right? And so see like if I press my Arcanist, I'll switch to whatever gear I had set up for that. Now, of course, it doesn't look that great because I have a lot of these just equipped with the same stuff because I was just simply making them to be able to put in these slots. Because this is the only quest I've leveled. So, but yeah. So they act as a way to quickly swap and access that gear that you were using. And so let's say I wanted to make a new gear set, right? So say, okay, I just want to make this warrior. I want to have nothing on beside my weapon, of course, and my crystal, my job crystal that I need on here. So I just wanna make this a preset that I can jump to whenever the hell I want, right? Well, so up top up here, sorry, you wanna access your character menu. I'm gonna assume you know how to do that either through down here, or I believe at default it's over here. So accessing your character menu, or you can press C if you have it, or whatever hotkey you have it bound to, and you'll just go into your character menu like this, right? And then up here, regardless of which tab you're in, it doesn't really matter. You will have access to like your recommended gear, glamour plates, and then your gear set list. And then this is also your update gear set. I'll talk about that in a minute though. So your gear set list, you want to open that up and so you'll be like, I want to make a new gear set that's just this. So up here on the top, you'll press create new gear set. It'll automatically tell you. By default, it names it whatever job you're on or class you're on. If you would like to rename it, I believe, yeah, you can come down here and press change set name by right clicking on it. I am not aware of what the how you do that on console, but I believe you can figure that out. So yeah. And now we have this instance of gear just saved. And so I can swap over to this instance of gear. Words are hard. And back to this one whenever I want. I just have access to that now. And so if you ever decide that, hey, I wanna put on this helmet, right? So I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna equip this helmet. Well, now I don't want to have to or you don't have to make a new gear set. To have that, just like these two things, as long as you're fine. Like if you just want to say, hey, I have new gear, I want to change my old gear set to be the new one, all you do is go up here and press the update gear set button, right? So now, if I go back into my gear set list where I can view all my gear sets, I can switch back to this warrior, right? This is my one that I started on. And then down here is the one I made. And so if I equip that, now since I updated it, it has my head and my axe. Cool. That's really the baseline of how gear sets work. And if you ever want to make a hotkey to change to a gear set, then what you will do is you will take that and you will drag it to somewhere in your hotbar. So now if I were to press, of course, it's already on this gear set, so it's not that effective in this case. But let's say, unlock that real quick. Let's say, okay, I want, when I'm on this warrior, right, I always want to be able to swap to that other warrior set that I have, where I have the full armor set. So I drag that down here, and then instead of pressing C and, oh, I have to go to my gear set list, and I have to scroll through my gear sets, right? Instead of having to do that, I can just press this down here, or whatever my thing is for it. So I can press Shift and then 2. And it would oh, sorry, not Shift and 2, Shift and 12, what equals. So, of course it's going to tell me, I already have that. I already have that on, so why are you asking me to do that, right? And so, yeah, at a baseline, that's how gear sets work. It's not too complex of a system, and I'd say it's fairly easy to get the hang of. So yeah, I'm going to delete that old set, and I'll say here's where I start the new part, right? So now we're going to move on to, in the first place, how do I make a HUD that can just collapse and can expand in the first place like that, right? And so this part we're going to be delving into HUD editing, HUD layout editing, and then we're also going to delve into some macros. Both are going to be very important. And for this is my default hotbar setup. This is all default, so if you haven't changed anything about your hotbars, this is probably what it looks like for you guys, right? Of course, I have certain skills equipped to mine, but the layout of this should be quite similar to yours. I will go into my hotbar settings very quickly, and I'll turn on display hotbar numbers so it's a little more clear for you guys what I'm working with. And I'm also gonna, I personally prefer to keep hotbar cycling off. I don't like it. I don't use it. That's up to you guys, but yeah, you can access these in your character configuration menu by pressing escape or whatever key you have it bound to, maybe. And then you'll go to your hotbar settings, and under display you can edit some of these things here. And so I'll turn on display hotbar numbers for you guys, and then I'm going to turn off hide unassigned slots. So this is probably what it kind of looks like for you guys. So having all of those slots be shown as well. I'm gonna have drag and drop repositioning on because that simply makes it easier for me. That's what I prefer, and I find it one of the easier methods to do this with. Right. So ignore the eyesore that is the beast cage sitting there right now. Yeah. So let's talk about that. So yeah. So to start off, you just want to keep it simple. You don't really care about efficiency. You just want to make an expandable hotbar, right? And you don't really care how many hotbars you use, or you just want one or two of them, right? So we want to go into our HUD layout. Do this here. Now, what we can do is we can click on the individual element this way. We can go into the UI of the element, or we can go through this UI and select which element we want to use. Sometimes this is useful if you have elements that are overlaid and you can't access them. Or yeah, when you have the element that you want selected, you can press this to toggle it on under the UI element settings here. Or oh wait, no. Or while you have it selected and you've clicked on it right here, you can also right click it as well to make said hotbar or said UI element display. Now I'm gonna do this for all the hotbars. I'm actually gonna have it set to show me just the hotbars, right? So I do have some of these may be in a different orientation for you guys. It's quite possible. That maybe your hotbar 7 is in a different shape than mine is. Point is though is that we're gonna make sure that all of these hotbars are displayed, right? Now, I always prefer to use the higher number hotbars for this kind of stuff because we're probably not going to be using actual hotkeys for them, but we want it to be an easily navigatable menu for it, right? So I'm gonna start by focusing on 10, and I'm just gonna drag it off to the side because that's where I think menus look best. I'm also gonna grab 9, and I'm gonna grab 8 over here. And I'm going to grab 7. You see 7's this horizontal. I want 7 to be vertical. So to edit my hotbar, the element that it's working with, I'm gonna go into its saw here. I'm going to its UI element settings like we did before to make it visible this way. And then we are going to choose whatever option you choose. I prefer the 1x12 when I'm doing this menu based stuff. So we're going to carry that over here. So unfortunately these didn't clear. But we're gonna fix that real quick. So right now I'm quickly going to go into my HUD layout. No, sorry, not HUD layout settings. That was wrong. Ignore that. I'm gonna go into my character config. I'm going to go into hotbar settings, of course. I'm gonna go to sharing. For now, I'm gonna turn off. Actually, no. Cancel. Close that. This is just because I've set it up differently before. However, what I am going to do here though is I'm gonna switch over to a marauder. And you'll notice I have all of this funny little stuff set up on my marauder. And that is some stuff that I'm going to show you how to set up in a moment. So let's assume you have all your UI sharing off, right? For the sake of explaining this, right? So we're gonna be like, hey, let's go to check config. We're gonna turn off these UI sharings real quick. Let's assume you don't have UI sharing on, right? Right now, this looks very cluttered. Trust me when I say I will make it better. So, at the moment, we're not going to talk about why I'm using Marauder. I'll explain that later. So, I just want to have a little arrow like I did before, where I can press that and it displays something else. Okay? So, to do this, we are going to go into our user macros. Use escape, whatever you need to access the system panel. For most people on PC, it's going to be escape. So we're going to go into your user macros. Could make this individual, you make it shared. I would make it shared as this is what is going to, you're going to be able to access it between whatever class you're using this way. And maybe even characters. I'm not too sure on that, though. So don't quote me on that one. But, okay. So you want to make that, right? You want to make this button that does this. So, okay. Let's make that for us real quick. So let's go, hey, so we just click on an empty slot in your macros. If you haven't made many macros before, this is probably a mostly empty space for you. Like it is for me, really. If not entirely empty, and that's okay. Perfectly fine. Not everybody learns macros. So you click on that. You'll want to click on the little portrait here. This is how you're going to edit what the button itself looks like. And so over here, we're going to say, hey, we want it to be that little arrow. That arrow's nice. We like that arrow. What are we going to name it? Now let's just call it open menu. Right? I think I have this one as show menu. Let's just call it open menu. So we know it's different, right? And so what do we want open menu to do, right? Well, we're going to put open menu on our 10th bar. And we want it to say, hey, let's show us what is in. Let's show us what's in 9, right? Maybe we have, I don't know. We're just gonna put that tank one there for now. I'll explain how to do it later. But maybe we want that button in 10 to show 9 because we just want to see 9 when we press it. Okay. So I'm gonna reference this real quick. Okay. Cool. So yeah, I want to say, want to do our slash. It's telling it it's command. Go hotbar. Nine. So when it's pressed, it's going to call hotbar 9. And we're going to tell it to display. And we're going to say on. I believe that's what I said back here. Or on, sorry, yeah. If we actually put brackets saying on slash off like this, that will make it so, apologies, I'm fat fingering a lot of keys. Yeah. That will make it so when you press it, it turns on, when you press it, it turns off. You could leave it like this if you want. However, it will not automatically disappear if you do leave it like this. You will have to repress the button every time. So then we'll say, hey, we're going to tell it to wait, I don't know, for sake of it, we'll just say 7 seconds. Let's wait 7 seconds and go through, and then we will turn it into then we'll tell it to do something else. So it's gonna sit there, it's gonna wait 7 seconds. We're gonna tell it to do something else. When it's wait those 7 seconds, we're gonna say, hey, hotbar 9. We're gonna look at hotbar 9 again, and we'll say display again. So we're gonna tell it what we're doing with this displaying it, and we're just gonna tell it to display it off. Turn the display of hotbar 9 off, right? So after we've opened it, it's waited 7 seconds. We're gonna stop displaying hotbar 9. Okay, cool. So we have this little widget here, right? And so we can grab this. We just drag it, however you do, and you can drag it outside and drop it in that hotbar 10. So now, if we press this, one moment, it appears I have done something wrong. Apologies. Oh, sorry. I actually input those in the wrong order. You want to say display. Sorry, we're telling it we're working with hotbars. We're telling it that we're then working with displays, then 9. Apologies, that is my fault. So display 9. Cool. Now it should function. I apologize. So yeah. Now when we press it, it turns off. If you press it again, it turns on. We wait a little bit. 7 seconds, right? It goes off on its own. I didn't touch it. You heard no clicking noise there. Press it again. Press it again, it turns off. Press it again. Once again, I'll sit over here. Wait 7 seconds. It goes off on its own. So that is the basic premise of doing that, of having it collapse on its own. Now, if you wanted that to look a little more clean and such, you would go into your character configuration and you would go to your hotbar settings, and then you go to your display, and then you could turn on hide unassigned slots. And then we're gonna apply that for now. I'm gonna backtrack on this in a minute, and I'm gonna turn that off so it's easier for you guys to see still. If I go to my HUD layout again, and I go and I grab 9 here, and I drag it over the top of 10, like that. We save it. We can go, yeah. When I open up 9, you can see it's still there. It's behind the 10. It shows up above, but it's that clean, so it looks like we're just kind of pulling up that menu. It just shows there now, right? I press it, turns off, yeah. And then, of course, if we do this, it's formatting this in a certain way. So that's the basic premise of making hotbars collapsible like that, right? I'm going to go back to my HUD layout. I'm going to pull 9 off the top of 10. I want to both display 10 and 8, or 9 and 8 again. And I'm going to go back to my character configuration under hotbar settings, under display, and turn off that hide unassigned slots once again. Once again, this is for visual purposes. If you can edit without it, that's okay, and that's whatever works best for you in this situation. So how do you set it up to work with these menus like this, right? So what we can do is we can do the same thing, right? Where we make let's just say it's 8. We want 8 to display and we want 8 to turn off. You'll just make another macro. You can put on whatever button icon you want it to look like. It doesn't matter. And that was my bad. I shouldn't have pressed the button. Like a silly man, as I knew it did that. When we want 9 or 8, or we can have it set up to where 9 has a bunch of buttons in it that displays 8, or maybe we want 2 hotbars of things. So 9 will have buttons in it that will, like, one will display 8, one's going to display 7, and they'll show up next to it. That would look something a little more like this. We'll go into our user macros again. Let's just create our own little button here. Let's say we want for the sake of it, we're just going to give it the number 8, so we know that it's calling 8. We're just going to say display 8. That's what it's going to be. And at the moment, we're just going to leave this as what's in 8. It'll make more sense later. But it'll be whatever you put in display 8. Whatever's in display 8 for you is going to show up when you call this. So assuming you've already made this open menu, we can actually reuse most of this here. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy paste this into the 8, display 8, and then I'm going to go in and edit it because to me that's a little bit easier. So I'm going to change my display 9 to display 8, display 9, display 8, and of course this kind of automatically saves on its own. And so we're going to drag this here, we're going to drop it there. Cool. So now let's kind of make it look like maybe what you're a little more expecting when you see that happen in action. So we're going to drag this above this. We're going to drag 8 here, right? And I'm going to turn both of them where you can't see them. I'm going to save it. Exit it. Okay. So now when we press this, we see 9. And then we're going to press that 8. Sorry. You will need, if you want to do it in this manner, you will need your, sorry, I went in the wrong menu. We'll want to go back into your character configuration, and you want to go to your hide unassigned slots once again. And so, press 10 here, or press this button in 10, your open menu, and then it pulls up this. You can press display 8, and then look at that, your column 8 shows up. So, yeah. You're going to apply the same principle for all of these, if you just want to keep it this way. But most people don't have the room to make, well, like 4, 5 different hotbars just to make this work out. And so that is exactly why I've chosen a Marauder. So it doesn't have to be Marauder specifically. Real quick, while I'm saying this, I'm gonna reset things here so that you can see everything again and things look good. But so it doesn't have to be a Marauder in particular. But what we are looking for, the goal of what we are trying to use is one of the base starting classes that you no longer use because you have a job crystal. So this is going to require that you at least be level 30 with a class or job, and that you have completed, I believe, it's one of the very beginning Sylph missions. It takes place, I believe, around level 20 to 22 in the main story quest for Realm Reborn. And that is going to give you access to your job quest, where you can gain the little job crystal, or the little soul crystals down here. Because once you have the soul crystal version of a job, you are almost never going to use that version of the job. So some examples of this: Gladiator has Paladin, or sorry, Gladiator turns into Paladin. So if you're a Paladin, you can use your Gladiator. I am, for this instance, I'm a Warrior. I can use Marauder because that was my starting class. This only works, of course, with the base ones. If you're a monk now, you can use Pugilist. If you are a Dragoon now, you can use Lancer. ninjas can use rogue. I believe conjurer. So that would be white mage. You can use conjurer. Scholar and summoner both end up going back into arcanist. If you're a bard, you can use archer, thaumaturge. So your black mage can use thaumaturge. And yeah, I believe that's all of the classes that end up getting job crystals. Or at least end up turning into that based on having the job crystal. So yeah, you'll want to use one of those based on a class that you've already leveled and that you use the job crystal version of only. So once again, for me, in this case, it is a marauder. And so this is the part where I'm going to talk about streamlining and making it a little bit more efficient with the use of only with the use of about 3 hotbars usually for any other class. Besides, of course, the one that you're not using, being Marauder or Marauder, my instance, or whatever base class you have. So, for the sake of this, I'm actually going to take over here. And I'm going to go into my HUD layout. We're going to redisplay 8 again. And I'm going to take Hotbar 7. I want to switch Hotbar 7 back to this 12x1 format, simply because I like this is how I set these up while I'm looking at them, because it makes them nice and easy to look at for me. Okay, let's exit that. So, let's say, okay, I want to clear out 7 here real quick, turn off locking. I don't have locking on. Let's say for Hotbar 7 here, I want to have it show me my warrior gear set. Alright, so I'll drop that there. I want to have it be able to access my journal at any time. I want Hotbar 7 to show me my character menu on it. I also want it to show me I have a behemoth mount, so I want it to give me my behemoth mount. Right? As you can see, none of that is currently in my Hotbar 8 at the moment, right? Except for this, but it is in a different position, of course. So this is the case scenario where our macros are going to get a little bit more complex. So your macros, like this original macro, the open menu one, as you can see, it's about the same. I do also include this in my own. I do include this hotbar display 8 off, because if you want to turn off 8 and 9 both with the open menu, it allows you to do that. So that is the goal of that instance there. Apologies. Are you on there? So I'm going to use. I have it set up with the name tanks because this is normally the macro I use to display my tank classes. I personally put my tanks in my Marauder 8 spot. And you can, of course, once again, you can press this button and you can customize it to whatever you may like. I'm going to leave it as my number 1 for tank. And so I will, so in this, to set up this macro, we are going to have it do this to be much more efficient. So we're looking at our hotbar 7, right? We want, when we call this macro, when we press this button, for it to look at 7 in this area, but we want to be able to see it on another class, right? That's what we want. So what we're going to have to do here is we're going to, of course, do our /hotbar up here. Alright? Then we're going to tell it that we want it to copy, right? We're going to tell it we want it to put whatever is in this part, right? whatever part we're going to reference, we want it to copy what's there to put it in what we have, right? We're going to tell it to copy it, and then we're going to have it look at, for my case, it's Marauder, so it's MRD. If you were using another class, you will use the 3-letter prefix, or abbreviation, not prefix, apologies, of your class, and then followed by the hotbar number that you are using. In this case, we're referencing hotbar number 7. And then we are going to tell it to copy to our current, whatever we're currently using, hotbar 8, right? So when we press this button, whatever's in our hotbar 8 is going to then, whatever is in the 7 of our Marauder slot, in this case, in our hotbar 7 for our Marauder, is then going to be copied and then be pasted into the whatever formatting stays the same of 8. So when we press this button, it will copy into 8. That's what that's doing. However, we still need to make it display. So we're going to do our /hotbar display and then 8, because that is the hotbar in reference for whatever reason. And we're going to turn it on. And then, for convenience purposes, we're going to have it wait 7 seconds again. And then we're going to have it turn off display 8, or we're going to have it turn off hotbar 8 for display. And we're also going to have it turn off hotbar 9 for display in this case, because I'm personally going to put it in my hotbar 9. If you had it in a different hotbar, you would put that hotbar. If you wanted it to also turn off, to just go back to the menu a few seconds after you've gone into the other one, right? So let's see what this looks like in action. Now, just so you guys can see, I've replaced that. Even though nothing has changed, that is what is there, right? So when I press this button, it is going to take this here and it is going to put those in these slots here. It will then wait about 7 seconds, and it's also going to make sure that's on. It will then wait about 7 seconds, and it will then turn off both hotbar 8 and hotbar 9, leaving us with just hotbar 10 over here. So I will press this. As you can see, it has copied these items here into this hotbar. Wait about 7 seconds, and then they're both gone. So now, oh, I want to re-access that again. We have access to it. It's quite simple once you've got the hang of it, but if you don't understand how it works, it can be very hard to understand at a baseline, especially if it's all thrown at you at once. So I understand that. Now, I'm personally going to go into my hut layout. I'm going to go to 4, and I'm going to set everything to default. I'm going to save that. And I'm going to jump back over to my main layout. And I'm just going to explain this to you guys, right? Because I already have this set up, and I'm just going to break down how I've set this up. So at this point, this is kind of, if you understand it, I'm not really going to be giving you much new information if you can understand how to apply it. But I'm going to be going over the several instances I have used in this case scenario, right? Real quick though, if you haven't left, assuming you haven't left, I do want to say that if you want this hotbar 10 into having this item as well here, and so on, you will want to turn on shared hotbars, so by going into your escape or your system menu, then going into character configuration, hotbar settings, and then under sharing 4, 9, and 10, or whatever 2 hotbars you've used in this case. at least hotbar 10 or whatever hotbar you have this open menu in. It's typically more convenient, once again, to use the higher number hotbars for this. That is why I choose to do so. So yeah. I may have to re-enable a few things here. I want to turn on all of these hotbars by personally right-clicking them. That's how I choose to do it. I'm also going to move my hotbar 8 over and my hotbar 9 beside it, like so. I want to save that real quick. Okay. So, I am going to have to play around and reset some of these. This is personally not what I want to be in the slot for me. I'm going to reopen this here. This is what I personally use as my tanks bar. I'm going to put both of my tank ones in there. Again. And then, yeah. Alright. So, what do I have going here? Why does it look like this? So personally, I've chosen to make buttons for my tanks, my healers, my damage classes, my crafters, and then I also just made another one for some mount stuff. Makes it a little easier to access for me. I just like it that way. So when we look at my macros here, you will see I have a plethora of them. Let's go to tanks. Alright, grab this tanks one, right? I'm gonna also drop the supports in 9. What I'm doing here is essentially I'm crafting this so that when I press this button, it opens up this menu to where I can see these as here. Go to our crafters. I'm actually going to redrop my show menu in instead of the open menu, because I also want it to be able to turn that 8 off. It's just a little more convenient that way. You would simply add it in after your display 9 on or off. And then also the mount stuff as well. And so essentially what I've curated here is I've made, so if you want any of these bars to work this way, or if you want these bars to work on their own and be available in any class, you will have to make your hotbars that you want to access from this from this class outside of whatever numbers you're using. So for me, I'm using 8, 9, and I'm always copying, or sorry, I'm using 10, 9 as those permanent, these are static, and I'm always copying to 8, so I don't ever want to use 8, because then that's going to touch on this. So I use 7, 6, 5, 4, and then 3. So in 7, I have my 2 tank classes. In 6, I have the 1 healer or support class that I have access to. In 5, I have all the damage that I have access to. In 4, I have all the crafters I have access to. And in 3, I have those few little mount things that I've chosen. And so when I press these, I can show my mounts. I can show my crafters. And so it is calling upon these to copy over here. Now what do the macros look like for these? It's not too far off from what I showed you in the show 8 previously. If I go into my user macros. Tank, I just have it called tanks. So we're copying, or sorry, in the tanks one. So right, in our tank we're copying our Marauder 7 or whatever class and whatever hotbar you want to copy, 7, to our current 8 bar. Then we're going to turn hotbar 8 on, or whatever bar you just copied it to on. We're going to wait 7 seconds, and then we're going to turn whatever hotbar we just had off. That's for convenience sake. And then whatever hotbar had the base menu in it, so it was 9, as well off for convenience sake. Now the support, damage, crafters, mount stuff, these are all essentially the exact same formula that is in 8. There's not much we're changing. You can see the one thing that changes between these is we are changing what Marauder, or maybe yours is Archer, orthometer, or whatever it may be, we're going to change the hotbar we're accessing. So because we know our supports, right? I've chose the support symbol. I've renamed it supports by clicking up here in this. We know our supports are going to be in Marauder 6. And you can put whatever shortcuts you want in these. You can name whatever you want. I just have it supports because that's what's here. And then, so since we know those are in Marauder 6, we're copying Marauder 6 once again to current 8. You can also span this across multiple classes you don't use. If you really want to have a bunch of them. Personally, this is all I have use for at the moment. And so we can see we have all these empty slots. Since we want this to look good, and we want to be able to access 9 while it's behind 10, so it looks a little more clean. We'll want to go into our character configuration. While we're here in our character configuration, because we want 9 and 10 to be static and accessible, we want them to be able to be the same thing and also accessible across all of our characters. We will want to turn on sharing. So we want to be in our character configuration under our hotbar settings. We want to go under sharing this time. We want to go and turn on sharing for 9 and 10. Or whatever your 2 static menu ones are, or if you have more than one static menu, the same principle applies. Where you will want to keep those static menu ones, like our show menu button one, and then our further menu that references all of these. We want to make sure that those are shared and they are static across every class. So we'll do that by turning sharing on for those. Now I'm going to go over to display, and I'm going to turn on hide unassigned slots. Once again, we are going to be in character configuration under hotbar settings and display. We have not left this area. We're just going to switch over to the display tab. We're going to turn on hide unassigned slots. This allows us to access, well, things that are behind the empty 10 slots, first of all. Also just makes the UI look a little bit cleaner. There's nothing behind it. And I think it allows you to see that background, allows you to see what's going on a little better. It also just looks a little bit nicer. I'm also, personally, I favor it. You may not. I think it does look, I don't like the way it appears when 9 overlays over 10 especially. I'm going to turn off display hotbar numbers. And I'm going to apply those settings. I'm now going to go into my HUD layout. I'm going to drag 9 behind 10 here. I'm going to drag 8 right beside 9. So it pops up like that little menu to the side. Keep in mind you have to have that little space if you want their bottoms to line up that way. I don't understand why this UI works like that, but it does. I'm going to save that now. Right? And so we're going to use this, and we're going to switch over to my normal warrior subclass, right? So I press this, it shows me these buttons that I put in here. Wow, those are so nice. I'm going to then press this to show my tanks. I have my warrior. Nice. We're on our friendly little warrior here now. And now, of course, since we threw that in there earlier, we can get rid of that. It's not accessible anymore. Now, since we're on our warrior, well, you can see, we can still see this show menu button. That is because once again, we made it shared. But if you need proof that this menu still functions while on another character, of course, this one is once again another static one. So that's always going to show because it is also shared. But when you press this still, it still accesses that because we are referencing it as the Marauder one. And the reason we do this is because if you have you need a lot of hotbars, or you need like 4 or 5, you can't use all of those to set up and still always have access to the amount of hotbars you want on the character. Plus, it makes it so you would have to set it up for every single job. This allows us to access it all from any job, and only that Marauder class is being taken up to serve this purpose. And so we'll open up our show menu and we can say, hey, I want to switch over to my blacksmith. Look at that, you can see my character in his fancy little suit that I have for being a blacksmith. And of course, after a few seconds, it goes away. As we clearly see, I need to extract a few materia. Let's do that really quick, because we all know that we'll forget if we don't do it now. Wrong button. Sorry. No. Yeah. Personally, I say feel free to tweak around with your UI, however it suits you, however you feel is best for you. Feel free to make these menus contain whatever you would like. You are not restricted to doing just these class things. It is any shortcut that you can make. For instance, I have mount speed and my just sell greens for this, so I can now my companion up easily and my other mount I like easily. It is all up to you. It's your UI. Feel free to alter it whatever way you want. I hope this was comprehensive enough. If I didn't cover something that you didn't understand, I apologize. Feel free to comment. I might respond to it, I might not, depending on how old the video is, or what I'm doing at the time. Or if I just didn't get a notification. But I'll try to respond. If not, I am almost positive that in the wonderful world of Final Fantasy XIV, with the community being as large as it is, with as many people as there are, somebody's probably made a video or a Reddit post or something covering the content that you didn't understand. But yeah, this was my really long-winded, very rambly coverage over the basics into the more advanced topics of setting up collapsible hotbars and collapsible UIs, or expandable, maybe you see it that way, in Final Fantasy XIV. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, hope this helps, and I'll talk to y'all another time. Bye-bye.